Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are continuing with opioid analgesics and its antagonist, part 2. Just a brief recap. Yesterday we saw that there are three main receptors of opioid. They are mu, delta and kappa receptors. Mu receptors have functions like supraspinal and spinal analgesia, sedation, inhibition of respiration, slowed gastrointestinal transit, modulation of hormone and various neurotransmitter release. And endogenous opioids which act on opioid mu receptors are endorphins, then enkephalins, then dynorphins. Next is delta. So they are supraspinal and spinal analgesia involvement, then modulation of hormone and transmitter release. Enkephalins, endorphins and dynorphins. Last is, third one is kappa, supraspinal and spinal analgesia. And agents are dynorphins. We also saw, again to revise this diagram of synapse, where you can see that the upper one is the afferent fibers, or there is pain stimulus, and this stimulus is stimulating this particular afferent nerve endings, and this is the mu opioid receptors are there. They can inhibit even the afferent impulses also. This is the inhibitory action. Then, so basically it's a primary afferent fiber. How? Here also another mu receptor, and how they work? They work by decreasing calcium entry into the axon. By this, a decrease in calcium entry will lead to decrease in mediator release, inhibition of mediator release from the presynaptic neuron. Like this is mu receptor. Other agents which do these also have this analgesic activity, like alpha-2 agonists, like clonidine. Then another mechanism is they also increase potassium efflux. That means they cause hyperpolarization. And which transmitters are released here? Glutamate and various neuropeptides responsible for pain conduction. Here this is glutamate receptors. They are mu opioids. They are also presented post-synaptically. And here they will cause release of potassium. That means they will cause hyperpolarization and decrease in stimulation of transmission of pain impulses in dorsal horn of spinal cord. Here is this diagram shows where these agents work from periphery up to the higher levels. Here again you can see that this is the primary afferent nociceptor stimulus, and this is the site A where they can modify this particular stimulus here only. Then there is again second site of their action is dorsal horn, where this modulation takes place. Here after that this impulse goes upwards. If it goes upwards, if it is of high intensity, again they will go through parabrachial nucleus and medulla and pons and through in the cerebrum, and this is amygdala. So this is the third site, C site, where they reduce the perception of pain. How they affect the efferent coming from above. Like this is higher centers, These are various action potential. This is opioid receptor, and by inhibiting release of GABA, it modulates those impulses which are coming from CNS. So by inhibiting GABA, there will be loss of inhibitory influence on GABA receptors, and then this descending inhibitory neuron is inhibited. So this influence is on inhibitory neurons. So by decreasing this particular stimulus, they will decrease inhibition of inhibitory neurons. So now in the next part, we will see what is the pharmacological classification of this agent. Yesterday also we saw this. Again we will revise. Like first category is opioid agonist. In this, morphine, codeine, meperidine, fentanyl, methadone and tramadol. Second is opioid agonist, antagonist and partial agonist. In this, pentazocine, nalbuphine, butorphanol, buprenorphine. Yesterday we discussed that how pentazocine is not acting on opioid receptors, it is acting on sigma receptors, and which is not under the classification of opioid receptors, which was previously thought. Then opioid antagonists, nalorphine, naloxone, naltrexone, naltrexone and nalmefene. So now we will go by individual agents. So first is pethidine, also known as meperidine. It is used in post-operative pain situations, chronic pain of severe degree and post-anesthetic shivering. That means one of the agents which is used during operations and after operations. Its metabolite normeperidine is epileptogenic. It can block neuronal uptake of 5-HT3 and can cause serotonin syndrome if used with MAO inhibitors and other selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So concurrent use of antihistaminics and tricyclic antidepressants can cause additive CNS depression. Concurrent use of antihistaminics and tricyclic depressants can cause additive CNS depression. Next agent is levorphanol. It is agonist at mu receptor, delta receptors and kappa receptors. Half-life is 12 hours and action and uses are very much similar to morphine. Next is loperamide and diphenoxylate. They are piperidine derivatives approved for treatment of diarrhea. They slow gastrointestinal tract motility. Also may act by decreasing secretions. Loperamide has very less central effect because of activity of para-glycoprotein. That means there is a para-glycoproteins present in blood-brain barrier which causes excretion of these agents from the blood-brain barrier. Diphenoxylate is also available with fixed drug combinations with atropine. So whenever we think of anti-motility opioid agents which are not having much CNS action, so not having much abuse liability and can be given over the counter, can be sold over the counter with lack abuse potential and lack respiratory depression. And for GIT activity, you should remember loperamide and diphenoxylate. Then comes highly lipid soluble fentanyl and its congener. They are fentanyl, alfentanyl, sufentanil and remifentanil. They are used as anesthetic adjuvants and inducing agents. Because of their high lipid solubility, they will take short time to peak of their analgesic action. But rapid termination of action occurs if they are given by bolus because of redistribution, and they also have minimum alveolar concentration sparing effect whenever given with gaseous anesthetic. That means they cause decrease in need of anesthetics. They can cause muscle rigidity, but they are having very less effect on myocardial parameters, and that is why they can be used for short procedures as ultra short acting anesthetics. They can be used. So they are used inducing agent, especially in cardiovascular operations. High dose fentanyl and sufentanil is used. For short procedures, remifentanil is more preferred because of its short duration. Chronic analgesia, they can be used by epidural route, epidural anesthesia. Then for cancer pain, they can be given as transdermal patches. Apart from these transdermal patches, whenever we talk about terminal care or management of pain in cancer patients, there are various new drug delivery systems by which various pain reducing agents like opioids can be given. Next is methadone. It's a longer acting mu-opioid receptor agonist. Longer acting, it's important. Racemic mixture of L isomer is more potent. So L and R isomers are there, and L isomer is more potent. It is similar to morphine, but duration of action is long, and that is important. Why? Let's see. It can cause prolongation of QT interval, which is a side effect, can cause cardiac arrhythmias. Propoxyphene is very similar to methadone. Because of this longer duration of action, methadone can be substituted in patients with opioid addiction. Next is tramadol. It is a synthetic codeine analog, weak mu receptor and agonist, used in treatment of mild to moderate pain, but it could be epileptogenic. A similar type of congener is but more safer is tapentadol. Then comes the pentazocine. It is kappa receptor agonist and a weak antagonist or partial agonist at mu opioid receptor, pentazocine. Effects similar to morphine, analgesia, sedation, respiratory depression. At high doses, it can cause dysphoria and psychotomimetic effect, mostly which are because of sigma receptor, tachycardia and increase in blood pressure. And it also can precipitate morphine withdrawal in dependent patient. Next is nalbuphine. It is kappa receptor agonist with competitive antagonist activity at mu opioid receptor. Analgesia is similar. Respiratory depression is also there with this, but because of it has a ceiling effect. That means it is not that by increase in doses, respiratory depression will also increase. In ceiling, there is a limit. After that, there is no increase in pharmacological action with dose or no increase in toxic effect with dose. So, relatively safe because of its ceiling effect. Next is buprenorphine. It is highly lipophilic partial agonist at mu receptor, 20 to 50 times more affinity to mu opioid receptors than morphine. Used in analgesia and management of opioid dependence. So, it is highly lipophilic, remember, and more affinity to receptors. So, it can be used in opioid dependence. So, now we will move to opioid antagonist. They are nalorphine, naloxone, naltrexone, naltrindol, and nalmefene. You can remember first 2 or 3 names only. They have very little effect if they are given alone because they are pure antagonists, and you must have remembered that pure antagonists don't have their own intrinsic efficacy. Either there should be exogenous agonists or there should be high stimulation of endogenous opioid because of some or other condition. They produce their effects only when given with agonist or in some cases where this system is activated. So their effect in absence of agonist is maybe they can cause mild hyperalgesia, reverse the hypotension with different forms of shock to some extent. Maybe during shock, the hypothesis is there is activation of endogenous opioid system, and these opioid antagonists, they are beneficial in these conditions because they antagonize the hyperstimulation or derangement, whatever it is caused by excessive stimulation of these endogenous opioid system, like hypotension. They can cause mild dysphoria and various neuroendocrine effects. In presence of opioid agonists, how they behave. Like acute opioid actions are there, like increase in respiratory rate and depth because they are agonists. They remove agonist by competitive antagonism, and they will reverse the changes caused by agonist. That is, increase in respiratory rate and depth, reversal of dysphoric or psychotomimetic effects caused by agonist. They can also cause some overshoot phenomena. Then there could be rebound release of catecholamines causing tachycardia, hypertension and ventricular arrhythmia. Rebound release of catecholamines causing tachycardia, hypertension and ventricular arrhythmias. What will happen if they are given in some patient who is already dependent upon opioid agonist or opioid dependent patients? They can produce or they can precipitate moderate to severe withdrawal in these patients because patient is dependent on opioid. That means agonists are there, and when antagonists are given, there will be precipitation of withdrawal reaction. And how they will act or what was the effect, severe or moderate, will depend upon the dose of antagonist and also on the degree and duration of dependence. How much severely the patient is dependent and for how much duration the patient is dependent upon opioid. If the duration is long, then withdrawal can be moved. So methyl naltrexone and albuterol can reverse the gastrointestinal effect of opioid dependence without precipitating central withdrawal syndrome. This diagram shows the withdrawal symptoms due to opioid dependence or in opioid dependent patients in various stages. So stage 1, it is taken from Lippincott, Illustrated Pharmacology by Lippincott, and in stage 1 up to 8 hours. There will be anxiety and craving for drug. If you stop the drug, then the withdrawal comes. Then stage 2, 8 to 24 hours, there will be anxiety, insomnia, GI tract disturbances, rhinorrhea, mydriasis, and diaphoresis, increase in sweating. And up to 3 days, after 1 day, that means 24 hours, up to 3 days, there will be tachycardia, nausea and vomiting, hypertension, diarrhea, fever, that means hypothermia, then chills, tremor, seizures, that means convulsions, and increased muscle spasm. So this is the withdrawal symptoms. So difficulty is how to manage withdrawal, because patient can be very serious during these withdrawal, and it's a life-threatening condition could also be present there. So for users of opioid antagonist, like somebody has accidentally taken or homicidally given high doses of opioid, and this is acute toxicity. So to reverse the opioid actions, like lethal actions like respiratory depression, these agents are used. They are also sometimes used for management of severe constipation, management of various types of abuse syndrome, trauma, shock, stroke, brain trauma. But cautiously, in these last type of conditions, it is used to antagonize excessive stimulation of endogenous opioid system. Now the next category of drug amongst them is cough suppressants. So they are the centrally acting cough suppressants or centrally acting antitussive agents. They are codeine, hydrocodone, and oxycodone. Next is dextromethorphan. They are analog of codeine. So they elevate the threshold of cough stimulus, and fewer are subjective, and there are few subjective type of these perceptive feelings are there. Their side effect and gastrointestinal side effects can be there. Other agents are pentoxavalin and caramifene. So now we come to the therapeutic uses of opioid. So from the beginning, we have finished with introduction to pain, pain perception, type of pain, what are the various pathways of pain, what are the various nerve fibers causing pain, how many types of pain is there, various terminology like narcotics, opioids, opiate, these types of terminology, and then we discussed endogenous opioid system, opioid receptors, mechanism of action of various opioid analgesics, and then classification of opioid analgesics. Even we have discussed what are the other pain relieving agents, like apart from opioid, narcotic, these are the narcotic analgesics. Then we have discussed the non-narcotic one like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents, and some classes of drugs which are not at all analgesics, but they are useful in some one or two conditions like antidepressants antiepileptics. They are also glyceryl trinitrate. They are, because of some other action, they are relieving the pain. Then we saw in detail the different agents, pharmacological actions of opioid analgesics on various systems as by taking morphine as a prototype drug. Then from today we started with some other agents with their one or two peculiar qualities, some important ones. Then comes the therapeutic uses of opioids, and first and foremost therapeutic use is analgesia. So they are the most potent pain relieving drugs available. They cause adequate pain relief, and many guidelines are available to use them, how to increase their doses or how to use them, like the World Health Organization's guideline, American Pain Society guideline, Federation of State Medical Board. So there are different guidelines or protocols by which we can follow them for their clinical use as analgesics. Like this is just one example of WHO guidelines, and they have made analgesic ladder like step 1, mild to moderate pain, so non-opioid plus adjuvant agent should be given. Then step 2, mild to moderate pain or pain uncontrolled, pain which is not controlled by after step 1. So here they can be, opioids can be added. Then step 3, moderate to severe or uncontrolled pain after step 2. So such types of guidelines are available by many societies and many organizations which can be taken, which can be seen. And we have also seen these are the various agents which are available with their dosing, their oral doses, their parenteral doses, and their some peculiar properties like codeine. In this, it is given orally, also parenterally, nausea common. Oxycodone, morphine. Then morphine sustained release preparations are there for patients with terminal care or cancer pain. Then there are methadone, which are having long half-lives. Then meperidine and different. So, and various, apart from their therapy, they can be used by various routes of administration. It will take a whole lot of second session to complete their different routes and different preparations by different routes of administration. Like patients control analgesia, how they are being used. Like patient is having some reservoir of drug with some mechanisms, either it is put in its subcutaneously or portable pens or in spinal subarachnoid fluid, and here patient can control its own dosing. Even there are systems where the overdosing can be antagonized, that control is also with the patient. So you can explore these different new drug delivery system, not only in the general pharmacology, here also. They can also be given by local. They can be given by rectal and per rectal administration, by inhalational route, by oral transmucosal administration, transnasal administration, transdermal and ionophoric administration. So there are many types of routes which can be explored with opioids, because in some condition they are needed chronically for chronic pain control conditions. Other uses are they are used in acute left ventricular failure and acute pulmonary edema to control dyspnea. Like these individuals are pink puffers. They are being also, how they are effective here? They are effective by two mechanisms. They are also decreasing anxiety, which is related with this, and they are also shifting fluid from pulmonary to circulation. By this, patient can breathe easily or more comfortably. Other uses are, they are used as cough suppressants. They are used as antidiarrheal, antimotility. Remember, loperamide, diphenoxylate. They are also being used for post-operative shivering, like pethidine, and they are very important adjuvant in case of anesthesia. So, analgesia, morphine is prototype, is used in trauma, cancer and other type. Diarrhea, the agent is diphenoxylate and loperamide. Relief of cough, morphine suppresses cough reflex. But we don't prefer morphine because it is having abuse as well as respiratory depression problem. So less abusing drugs are codeine and dextromethorphan, more common. There is a very important side effect because of codeine is constipation. Then treatment of acute pulmonary edema, these agents are used. Then intravenous morphine dramatically release dyspnea caused by pulmonary edema because of its vasodilator effect. It reduces cardiac preload and also anxiety. Then anesthesia. What are the various contraindications and cautions for opioid use? Use of pure agonist with weak partial agonist should not be there, because in presence of pure agonist, these partial agonists will act like antagonists and there will be precipitation of withdrawal syndrome. Then use of patient in head injury. It is contraindicated. Why? Because there are many reasons. Like their side effect is vomiting and even progress of patient, how it is deteriorating or improving is managed by these various signs and symptoms like pupillary reflex, vomiting, which are the sign of worsening of head injury. So opioids are causing pinpoint pupil, so it can interfere with the pupillary reflex. How you will assess the prognosis? And they are also having side effect like vomiting. They are used in pregnancy. If at all it is used, there are chances of neonatal respiratory depression in fetus after birth and impaired pulmonary reserve because they cause respiratory depression in patients who are having pulmonary insufficiency or impaired pulmonary reserve because of some other condition. So they are contraindicated. In patients with impaired hepatic or renal functions because they are metabolized by liver, morphine is metabolized by liver and secreted by kidney. So their dose can be changed or toxicity can be there. And even patients with endocrinal diseases because they have very significant effect on neuroendocrine control. Other their toxicity, tolerance, when large doses are given at short intervals, there is development of tolerance. Analgesia, sedation and respiratory depression. Tolerance to these actions occur. They are the commonest effect to develop tolerance. That means patient who is stable on some, whatever the dose of opioid, on development of tolerance will ask more dosing. And that is the pain is not controlled. And that is the biggest physician dilemma because opioids, they are also having dependence liability. So it is very difficult to differentiate between whether the pain is really there, whether tolerance occurs and whether the patient is because of dependence asking for morphine. Respiratory depression can occur at 60 milligram, even in 200 milligram. Tolerance does not develop to meiotic, convulsant and constipatory effects. It is difficult to have tolerance on them. That means on patients with opioid, constipation will be the constant problem side effect. There are presence of cross tolerance with partial and incomplete opioid rotations. And degree of tolerance, again to revise, tolerance developed, it is very high tolerance to analgesia, euphoria, dysphoria, mental clouding, sedation, respiratory depression, antidiuresis, nausea, vomiting, and moderate 1 to bradycardia, but minimal or no tolerance to meiosis, constipation, and convulsions. Physical dependence. Dependence refers to a state. Morphine, opioid group of compound cause both physical dependence and psychological dependence. Physical dependence refers to a state of adaptation manifested by receptor or drug class specific withdrawal syndrome produced by cessation of drug spell. If we stop the drug, then there will be physical withdrawal syndrome will be there, and that is physical dependence. Signs and symptoms are rhinorrhea, yawning, chills, piloerections, hyperventilation, hyperthermia, diarrhea, hostility, and anxiety. Antagonists are given if in this situation they will precipitate more severe withdrawal. Psychological dependence, they become the reason for opioid abuse, like euphoria, indifference to stimuli, sedation, abdominal experience similar to intense orgasm, and they are reinforced. The psychological dependence will reinforced by the physical dependence. What is the therapy? Shift patient from shorter acting agent, because shorter acting agents, as soon as their levels will be low, the withdrawal will be precipitated. That means the agent which is having a longer duration of action will have very mild or mild type of withdrawal reactions, because its level in blood will be there for longer periods. Then clonidine, that is alpha agonist, it is used in narcotic withdrawal, opioid withdrawal reactions. Then transcutaneous electrical stimulation can be done, and buprenorphine, again one of the longer acting agent. What will you do when there will be toxicity and overdosing? Clinical overdosing, accidentally. Sometimes it is more common in suicidal overdosing. Signs and symptoms, there will be triad of coma. That means pathognomic of opioid overdoses, pinpoint pupil, coma, and decreased respiration. When these three symptom triad are there, it is sure that the patient has been toxic with that opioid type of drug. Other are anuria, frank convulsions in children, non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema. Non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema is also there. How the opioid toxicity is treated? Ventilatory support is needed because they are causing respiratory depression. Drug of choice is acute toxicity for IV naloxone 0.01 milligram per kg, and treatment should be such that reversal should occur without precipitation of withdrawal of the poisoning. It is due to, if the poisoning is due to methadone, the patient may slip back into the coma, as antagonists have short life but methadone is having long life. So if a patient is poisoned by methadone, so that means long time monitoring and of patient is needed, and longer duration of treatment is needed with observation. This is one of the graph which shows how much the relation of the drug in blood for how many time or days, and there will be severity of withdrawal. You can see here it is being shown that there are three drugs are showing here. Yellow one is heroin, the pink one is buprenorphine, and then blue one is methadone. And days are 0, 5, 10 and 50 days. You can see that very short half-life is heroin. That means the withdrawal of heroin will be severe. Severity of withdrawal is very much high with heroin. And buprenorphine is used in opioid detoxification because it has a less severe and shorter duration of withdrawal symptoms in compared with methadone. Second is buprenorphine is here because its duration is also short but its withdrawal is not much. And in methadone, the symptom lasts longer but symptom lasts for long period but less severe. Severity is not high in comparison to heroin. So with this, we end opioid analgesics and antagonists. Thanks a lot.